on to our actual first article, which is gonna be "The World Ends with You." Me and Randy are huge fans of it. So aside from Final Fantasy VII, is one of my favorite RPGs of all time. So I know me and Randy were excited to hear that they announced a sequel to "The World Ends with You," which was the first game came out 14 years ago.
Oh, dude,
So
when I saw that it came out 14 years ago, I was like, wait, are you fucking serious?
yeah, time
2007.
time flies, dude. Like
When I was I
I
was
feel like
10.
I played that game maybe like 5 years ago at the most, and it's been three times that much. So IGN, they have a video up that shows a preview of the combat and the environment, which the main location is Shibuya, which was the main setting of the first game. So now it's just all a 3D game now. So I wanted to know what your thoughts of the game mechanics and the graphics so far, and of course I want to hear from Randy first, since I know he was a big fan.
It looks amazing. The art style didn't change. They only gave it, a third dimension, so it's still very faithful to what the old game was. The combat, I do enjoy that it's interesting that it's a whole team based thing. Like everyone gets a pin.
Yeah.
I was curious as to how it was gonna be, to be quite honest, because clearly in the first, it's your ally has their own like sort of weapon, and you have like your set of pins. But now that it gives them an excuse to actually work together fully on one plane, and they translated that very well.
Yeah.
Because the whole premise of the other one was just like, oh, here's your second screen, and you could either control them or you could just let them like kind of auto fight.
Yeah.
What is it? One thing I do also like, there's so much to like about this though. Like I don't want to like gush, but at the same time I do because it's beautiful. The name of the team, it's a really
Twisted,
nice
something twisted.
twisted, no, Wicked Twisters.
Wicked Twisters, yeah.
Twister is the name of the theme song for The World Ends with You.
Okay.
So it's like a little call to the song itself.
Oh.
So I like that nod. Going to the article, I do have some gripes with what she was saying on how like it was very self-referential. I don't find that to be a problem. Because she's
Ye-
like, oh, there's a lot of callbacks to like the first game. Yeah, I get that. But at the same time, like the
Plus,
world kind of has to be established, like
yes.
it's already been established and it has to be reiterated.
But it's
DSs
because it's been
were
so long.
discontinued. Yeah, it's
14
14
years.
years. DSs have been discontinued, and chances are you're not gonna fucking get the world ends with you anytime fucking soon. So they definitely have to keep on bringing it up. And even then, like if an old character comes up, obviously Neku's gonna be there. They
Yeah,
showed him
they've already
off like the
mentioned
end
it.
of,
I am excited
yeah.
of what role he's gonna play.
He left, but now that he's back, it's like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
hold on, I'm
Yeah.
scared. But what is it? It's da, da, da. They say that they don't know how they're gonna like reintroduce old characters without like and keeping a coherent story.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, it's like, oh, I say glancing at Kingdom Hearts. One, don't attack it, but also, it's if you could keep up with it, if you could keep up with what's going on, and I'm sure that they're actually going to. I'll chug the beer, and I'm sure they're actually going to like. It's fine. I'm pretty sure they're actually going to introduce the characters very well, and it'll still make sense. But you
Yeah.
have to pay attention. That's the main thing when it comes to following any story. You have to pay attention. If they're introducing beat or rhyme again, well, obviously not rhyme, but if they're introducing beat or like CP, like you're gonna have to be like, okay, this person was in the first game. What is their actual role? How did they grow from the events of the first one? What are they gonna tell you about the events of the first one? Because that's the fucking story. It's still gonna be coherent because they were the biggest part of that. There were other teams, but Neku, Joshua, Beat, Rhyme, and Shiki were the main players that you were like that it was revolving around.
Yeah.
The story is gonna make sense. So that little gripe I really didn't like on her end,
They
but
do have to be careful with it. Like, I mean, if comparing it to Kingdom Hearts, that's what I do worry about, is that they're eventually going to make it too convoluted because they want to try to refer to the old game, or even further back from that, even more so, and it kind of just twist everything and kind of like, because the thing is also, it's not even just trying to connect the first game with the second one. It's also about the translation, because if they poorly translate the game, for for American audience and stuff, it can get lost in translation and kind of be just as confusing as like Kingdom Hearts would be for an American audience just starting out as well. So I do worry about
Um,
that, but you
the
are right that they do have to have some references and talk about the previous game.
Yeah, but also the thing with it being confusing is that genuinely the world ends with you is pretty confusing in of itself because the way that it paced its story, it didn't give you a solid A to B timeline. It was A to fucking F and then like to Z, and then it would like fill it in here and there because every single like week that you would progress through, you learned something new about it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. They
how
had
how
it. They had
Neku
a
showed
habit
up in
of,
the game.
huh?
Sorry, no, I was gonna say how Neku ended up in the Reaper's game. Like, you didn't know what the fuck happened. He just woke up in Shibuya and he's like, "What the hell? Like, what's going on?" And then later on, you find out that he was shot, and then you find out who he was shot by, and like so on and so forth.
Yeah,
Because then she's like, "Oh, there was a very confusing truck accident that the main characters were involved in," and it's like, okay, it's confusing now, but it's not going to stay confusing. And the first one tied up all of its plot points. So the
yeah.
second one is going to do the same thing, I'm pretty sure because the writing was phenomenal. It's supposed to be confusing because it can't give everything away right away.
Well, I think it was also confusing because it had so many characters to focus on. Like it wasn't just Neku, like you said, it was Shiki and Beat and what happened with Rhyme,
And
and all that
Joshua as
stuff. And
well.
Joshua and who was the guy who sat on the trash heap because he's back,
Oh
that
yeah,
Reaper.
the math guy.
Yeah, like he's back
Yeah.
in there, so they have to connect these things. So in the first one, it was set up in kind of like days, which was pretty much chapters, and each chapter wasn't didn't go straight into like only focusing on Neku, and then they focused on Shiki, and then they focus on Beat. Like it'll be like one or two chapters they focus on Neku, and then like another chapter that's focused on Shiki, and then it'll go back to Neku, and then it'll go back to Shiki, and then it'll go back to Joshua, and then it'll go back to this. So it was confusing in that sense, but as you said, as long as they're paying attention to all of it, it was all cohesive and there was closure in the end afterwards. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
because it's picaresque where it's kind of fragmented here and there, but once you get all those pieces, you can line them up yourself. They're not gonna
Yeah,
fucking hold your hand and tell you the stories and like, oh, here we go, chapter one, Neku wakes up in Shibuya.
yeah. Kevin,
Oh.
so I haven't heard from you about it at all. Have you attempted to play it yet? Have you opened the box? Haven't yet.
Box is open. The box is open. I just haven't played it. I feel like it's a game that I have to sit and enjoy. I can't do in small bites. So definitely this weekend, I'll definitely have to play it.
Yeah,
Since
yeah.
now the I'm looking at the sequel, and the sequel is combat looks it looks really nice. Like like at first I was like, honestly I was like, what the fuck is going on? I can't even like I was looking at it. I was lost. Like I was lost. And then I was like, okay, I get it. It's very flashy. Um it's very team based. Like
Yes.
I wouldn't know how to say it without like sounding strange, but it's very like one teammate can attack and then you could follow up with another teammate's attack, like, and then you control everyone. It's
Yeah.
not like you just send AI to do whatever. Um and I like the art design. It's like it's gorgeous. like the 2D 3D aspect.
Yeah,
It's like it's fucking. I love games like that.
it's very Arxis
Very
Yeah.
Arxis, and that's why I love Arxis so much because they.
because it's like two and a
Oh my
half
god.
D.
Yeah, it's 2.5, and it always like it makes me gasm. You know what I mean? Like those type of arts that just alone makes me gasm. I love the main character, how he looks. I like that he has the little mask. So I was like, oh, he practiced social distancing. That's interesting. I like this. Uh, so like I'm very observant on details, and like I like the design of every character. Again, I don't know any of the characters' names, even though she was mentioning them. I love the design that they're going with. Everybody, they have the typical golf girl, then they have the game master. Don't know who that is, but he has a little suit, and then they have the main character, which I'm guessing is
Rindo.
that's Rindo.
Rindo. Yeah.
Rindo, and he looks like a hipster. like,
They all
so
look like hipsters.
they all look, no, but he's very noticeable, especially with the little the little mask.
Oh,
I was like,
look,
yeah, I was like,
play the first one.
That
Everyone looks like a fucking
that
hipster.
that was one of those things I really loved about the game that was very different was that for those who never played the first game is that it was very much focused on fashion. So
Hmm.
all the equipment that you bought, all the accessories, shirts, pants, shoes, necklaces, whatever it may be, they had the typical RPG attributes of raising your stats or lowering your stats or whatever it may be. But they also benefited on wearing particular types of clothing that were in style to give you certain buffs. So you had to keep track of that as well. So that was a really cool
Because
aspect of it too.
it was the brand that you wore and in what part of the town that you wore it in.
Yeah.
Because just like, because how to put it, in in Queens something could look cool, and in Bronx you look like a fucking idiot. But if you wear like what you want, what you actually need to in the Bronx, you'll get a stat boost from it.
Yeah.
As like a New York example, if anything.
okay. I
Yeah.
see, and that's actually interesting that you can that clothing affects your like I know it's clothing affects your stats, but I mean clothing affects your stats in certain areas.
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah.
that like in that aspect of a
It's a
buff,
it's a
and
tip it's a
and a nerf.
typical stat boost and also a plus a boost or a buff or a nerf.
All
Oh,
right,
and
that's
also
interesting.
I forgot about the food aspect of the game too.
Yeah.
Do you cook or do they cook for you?
No, you could go to like restaurants, any like fast food joint or any like really high class spot that's in Shibuya itself. You buy your
Mm-hmm,
food and you sort of equip it to a character in a sense,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
where that
Favorite.
food
Oh,
stays with them for X amount of battles, like little
Mm-hmm.
notches that are there. So as like
mm-hmm,
they're like they consume it, and that's like the energy that they get, quote unquote. So
mm-hmm,
as you know, the more battles you progress through, eventually that food will be consumed fully, and it also gives you like different stat bonuses and such, but they're all temporary. So like a side of fries can give you like attack plus 10, but it only lasts you like 2 battles because it's like a light snack. Whereas a burger could do like attack 15 and you'll get it for 5 battles or 6 depending on where you get it from. Then there's
mm-hmm,
like sushi platters or like I said, very high end restaurants you could go where the stat
mm-hmm.
bonuses are better and they last longer, or some of them is just really, really good for a really short time, like an hors
Gotcha.
d'oeuvre of sorts.
Got you. I wanted to ask a question. So, do they have like the what would it be like the persona aspect that if you cook a specific meal or get a specific meal for a specific person, it gives them like if it's a plus
Hmm.
15, it'll give them like a plus 20. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like a
yeah,
buff like that.
yeah. The characters also had their own palettes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
y-
okay.
they didn't tell you directly that they liked like that. Okay, so for Beat, he was kind of like a hood rat, like a thug, if anything. So with him, like you give him a 5-star meal or whatever the case, he's like, oh, it's okay, or like he's not used to it. But you give
Yeah.
him something like fast food, and he's oh, it's so delicious, and you're like,
Oh, so, so
shit, dude.
Yeah.
so you're telling me a Philly cheesesteak or a bacon, egg, and cheese
I'm
does him right?
well, exactly.
Does him justice.
Yeah.
All right, I'm definitely gonna play it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So for Danny, I know you didn't get to really play this game because you didn't have a Switch or a DS or anything. But what were your impressions of this game
No.
specifically?
I mean, I wasn't really that impressed, but that's only because I don't have the history behind it.
Hmm.
Kind of reminded me of like Persona Strike or something like that, like the same style.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. It's
um,
the sadly that video doesn't do it justice if you don't know the history because all you see is
yeah,
is a slight bit of the combat and then art style and that's about it.
yeah. So, like looking it up from like an outside perspective, I'd be like, maybe we
Mm.
pass on it only because it just looks like every other Japanese RPG to me. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
Yeah,
uh,
that's fair.
I, you know, it has a lot of all the elements that every other Japanese RPG has. You're in the middle of Shibuya, that Japanese looking place.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is
That you
Japan.
see in every
Really
Japanese game.
colorful. I mean, you're attaching equipment to it. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Another JRPG, but again, because it has the history from the DS, I know people love that game. So I know there is more to it. It's just unfortunate for me that I never got to really play it. I
Yeah.
probably won't,
Yeah.
honestly.
I,
You still can. It's okay.
I think
I
you would
can,
I think
but
you would
I
like
won't.
it. I think you would like it, especially it. I'm sorry if I don't even know this myself. It's sad that I don't. But is it releasing for anything other than like the Switch?
No, I think it's just a Switch. I'll
Okay.
double check right now. So keep on going
Cause,
with
cause
what
I
you're
was gonna
saying.
say like Danny should give it a chance. Cause like I know you do like JRPGs with a little bit of of something different
Yeah.
at least. Sometimes classic, sometimes something different. I think you would like the game. I wish you could have played the original first, but if anything, you could always look up a video of explaining like the gist of
It's
it.
coming out for
Storyline or
PlayStation,
whatever.
It's coming on
Oh,
PlayStation
really?
also.
PS4. Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Okay,
so
Mm.
there you
that so
go.
then I might,
Yeah,
definitely have to give it a
look into
chance
the
if I can.
story. Look into the story and see if you like at least the basis of it, and see if you give it a chance. I wouldn't fault you if you don't like it because I could understand, I guess, from an outside perspective that it doesn't look appealing. It looks like a generic
Yeah,
RPG.
JRPG.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but also as an angsty child, it was more enjoyable then as well.
And
yeah,
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
after playing Yakuza, that like scratched every JRPG itch in the
yeah,
world.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has every single JRPG trope you can think of. It's kind of hard to even want to play another one because like I scratched that itch. I got it. It's done.
yeah,
You know.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And that one, like even the food thing you guys were talking about, I had that too. Same exact
Mm-hmm.
thing, depending on the character. Like it was like the exact thing. Like they definitely stole that from that game. You could tell.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
there were nice restaurants, and some of your guys would get like your character was a bum, was a
Mm-hmm.
bum in the game, and if you feed him junk, he gets like a boost. And but if you feed him like they have like 5-star meals, he doesn't get a boost, and he like complains about it.
yeah,
So
yeah. Okay, well that's
You,
shit
fair.
like that.
Well, what about you? What did you think?
For me, just like you,
Gushed in his
a
pants.
freaking nerdgasm.
guys.
Yeah, like I even before this footage, like just the teaser alone that they had showed for
Yes.
Neo, I was
Mm-hmm.
just I flipped shit. I was so excited about it. I watched it a million times just to like realize if it's real or not because I've waited so long for a sequel. So yeah, I got excited for this, and I guess like Danny could say like I'm a bit, I guess you could say biased. How would you say that, or fanboy about it?
Mm-hmm.
Because I love this trailer as well. I don't see it as generic just because I know what to expect from the game.
Well, again, if you're, it's
No,
by
with the history,
somebody.
it's different.
With the history is different, yes.
Yeah,
So
the
so
history
so
is
I
always going to be different behind.
So I was
Like
excited. I was excited for getting back into what I loved about the first game, which me and Randy talked about, was the fashion sense aspect of it, the food part of it,
fashion.
the way they do the pins, because the pins if I was to compare it to anything, it could be kind of like materia from Final Fantasy VII. Like you equip certain
Mm,
things and it gives you certain
yes.
powers, and then they evolve and they get more powerful, and you can even just sell them off if you want to if you find yourself not using them. So there's a lot of these aspects to it. The story was very unique and very different to me, for its time anyways. Now it's kind of the concept of it has kind of been done a lot in different movies and animes and things like that, but this was a very different story back in the day, so I'm excited on how they're going to expand on the world more. So that's what excited me the most, was the story and bringing back the old game mechanics.
Actually, speaking of the pins, there's one thing that like I definitely want to let you know, like both Kevin and Danny, not every pin benefits from leveling up.
Mm-hmm.
Because the evolution of the pins, sometimes it would make it a lot worse, even though it was like a lot stronger, but just like for your own play style, it wouldn't do what you needed it to do.
All I
Yep.
need is attack. All I
Because
need
like
is
what is
attack.
it? Yeah, no, because like what is it?
Magic.
The lightning pin, it used to be like you tap the screen and Neku would shoot out like this fuck off like force lightning type of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
then after a while, I think you had to start swiping down and it would be like just a bunch of random lightning bolts, but they wouldn't really hit
from
much.
from the sky
Oh,
like
so they had.
Pikachu.
Yeah. Yeah,
Also,
so
it would rain down, and the accuracy is bad. All
yeah,
right,
so
makes
you
sense.
would go from actually like guaranteeing that you hit something to you either flip a coin and you get heads and it hits, it does a lot of damage, or they could just like sidestep it or you just miss overall.
Yeah.
It's one thing that I don't see. Well, in Yakuza, I definitely know that it's there. Um, but there's an aspect that it's very, very small, and not a lot of RPGs do this, and it irks me. Uh, Clothing. clothing change, like with equipment, is like one of my. It's one of those things that I need.
Me too. I like
I
that
can't.
too.
I
I
hate
really
wearing
do.
the same outfit over and over again. Like
Oh,
it irks
cosmetic
me.
changes?
Yeah, I
I
Yeah.
need
like
cosmetic in my life.
I like
I'm.
especially in RPG games when you
Mm-hmm,
see you put on a shield, whether it's a shield, armor, shirt, whatever it is,
hmm.
you see it on the character. You know.
It's a much appreciated detail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 like
In the first one, they didn't do that. Maybe they'll do it in the
No,
second one. Probably not.
maybe.
no,
Uh,
maybe we'll see.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, so we're
I
gonna
kind of
go
hope
ahead.
they don't
One last
actually,
thought.
because their character designs now are nice.
True,
Yeah, they
true.
look they look
I
gorgeous.
guess it would be a funny mishmash of stuff if you just threw in kind of anything and kind of throw off the whole or one of the biggest themes of the game, which,
Of
like we said,
course,
is fashion. So
but
I guess that makes
but
sense.
it also could be something subtle, like Final Fantasy. For instance. That's my fucking shot. But Final Fantasy VII, like they didn't change any of the clothes or anything, but every time you put on a piece of a new weapon, you saw the weapon. Like
Yeah,
it could be something subtle just as that to make it more interesting. Like, oh, I want to get a new weapon because I want to see it. You know, the
yeah,
But
ultimate weapon was badass because of the way it looked, as well.
yeah. That's
I'm
true.
guessing I'm guessing with the. All right, so it's like they're not stuck with like certain elements like Beat has to use earth or he has to use fire. You know what I mean? Like, are they stuck with certain elements? So then I think the weapon system will be fine because I guess the
Well,
way you fight
there
would
are no
change.
weapons. It's all like
No, no, but
powers and psychic whatever moves.
that's what I'm saying. Like with the magic or the ability that they have, it would change per character. The animation might look the same, but it will be like lightning or it'll be earth or it'll be fire or something. So it like even that is like enough for me. Like Persona was just like the weapon cosmetic, and I was like, that's fine. And then the DLC gives you like outfits from Shin Megami Tensei and all that stuff. So I would like you love those. I love those little things, but like weapon cosmetic is just it's as fine for me. But if it's like powers and stuff, all I need is poison and lightning, and I'm happy, honestly.
Yeah.